Hello, friends. Are you ready to explore the fascinating world of Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw? Released on October 25, 1990, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're bringing you all the hidden gems, stunning details, and unforgettable moments. If you enjoy this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more exciting movie explorations. Let's jump right in and uncover the magic together. Released on August 30, 1990, Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw. Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 is more than just the final entry in a celebrated trilogy. It is a powerful crescendo to a saga that has come to define the golden era of Filipino action cinema. With Fernando Poe Jr. at the helm, portraying the indomitable Lieutenant Bobby Guerrero, this film plunges deep into the shadows of corruption and delivers an emotionally charged, action-packed tale of justice, integrity, and resistance against a rotting system. It's a film that doesn't just ask you to watch. It demands that you feel the weight of its truths. At its core, the story follows the relentless journey of Guerrero, a man whose ideals have not withered despite the betrayals and bloodshed he's witnessed. After facing countless threats and personal losses in the previous installments, he now finds himself at odds with one of the most feared and powerful men in the judicial system, Judge Valderrama, portrayed with chilling gravitas by Eddie Garcia. Valderrama isn't just another corrupt official. He is the embodiment of the systemic decay Guerrero has sworn to expose. Their conflict isn't just a battle of bullets, it's a battle of convictions, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What makes the film extraordinary is how it refuses to compromise its message for the sake of spectacle. Yes, it delivers explosive action, breathtaking chase sequences, and fierce gunfights, but all of it is rooted in a deeply human struggle. Guerrero isn't a larger-than-life superhero. He's a man who bleeds, who doubts, who mourns. Fernando Poe Jr. brings to the role not only physical intensity, but also a quiet strength and emotional vulnerability that grounds the character. Every fight Guerrero enters feels earned, every wound feels real, and every victory comes with a price. The visual storytelling enhances the film's tension, with gritty cinematography painting a raw, unforgiving urban backdrop that mirrors the moral complexity of the narrative. The streets of Manila, often soaked in rain and shadow, serve as more than a setting. They are a reflection of the film's central conflict. These are not just places where action unfolds. They are battlegrounds where souls are tested, where justice feels like a distant dream, and where heroes must rise even when the cost seems unbearable. The suspense unfolds gradually, with revelations that peel back the layers of a deeply corrupt system. As Guerrero digs deeper into a land-grabbing scheme orchestrated by Valderrama and his allies, the audience is pulled into a web of lies, coercion, and silent victims. Along the way, we meet characters who challenge Guerrero's path, some who inspire him to continue, others who try to destroy him. Among them are friends whose loyalty is tested and enemies whose ruthlessness knows no bounds. Each encounter adds complexity to the narrative, pushing the story forward with a sense of inevitability. What keeps viewers hooked isn't just the physical danger Guerrero faces, it's the emotional toll. We watch him lose people he loves, struggle with loneliness, and come to terms with the possibility that doing the right thing might mean sacrificing everything. These emotional undercurrents elevate the film beyond the typical action formula. Guerrero's pain, his doubts, and his unwavering moral compass resonate long after the credits roll. Monica Herrera, Romy Diaz, Kathy Mora, and Jono Gibbs round out the cast with performances that add depth and dynamism to the film. Each character plays a crucial role in Guerrero's journey, from allies who risk their lives to support his cause, to foes who represent the very evils he's trying to eradicate. The interplay between these characters brings out new facets of Guerrero's personality, revealing a hero shaped not only by his battles but by his relationships and values. One of the most gripping moments in the film is a courtroom scene where Guerrero confronts Valderrama not with fists or weapons, but with truth. It's a rare quiet moment in a film filled with chaos, and it lands like a thunderclap. The silence in that room is deafening, charged with a lifetime of pain and rage. Guerrero speaks, not only to Valderrama but to an entire system, and for a brief moment, justice feels possible. The climax is explosive, emotional, and deeply satisfying. Without giving too much away, It brings Guerrero face to face with the cost of his crusade. The final scenes carry the weight of everything he's endured, and as the dust settles, there is no easy resolution, only the quiet satisfaction of a man who stood his ground, even when it nearly broke him. It's the kind of ending that lingers, that makes you sit with your thoughts and ask yourself what you would have done in his place. So why did this film capture the audience's imagination so completely? Because it tapped into something universal. It told the story of a man who wouldn't give up, even when the world gave him every reason to. In a time when many felt powerless, Guerrero gave them hope. In a society grappling with its own demons, he became a symbol of resilience, of courage, of the possibility that one voice could still make a difference. Audiences weren't just watching, they were bearing witness. Even today, Hindi ka Sisikatan ing Araw holds a mirror up to our own times. It reminds us that corruption, though deeply rooted, is not invincible. It shows us that the fight for justice is never easy, but always necessary. And it proves that cinema, when wielded with sincerity and soul, can do more than entertain. It can awaken, it can challenge, and it can inspire. This is why the film deserves not only to be remembered but revisited. It's not just a relic of Philippine cinema history, it's a living, breathing story that still has something to say. And for those willing to listen, its message is as clear and powerful as ever. Stay with us as we continue to uncover the deeper layers of this masterpiece, from behind-the-scenes secrets to hidden symbolism, and everything in between. The journey is far from over. As the second half of Hindi ka Sisikatan ing Araw begins, the storm that has been quietly building throughout the first act finally begins to thunder. Lieutenant Bobby Guerrero, already bruised from his pursuit of justice, now stands on the precipice of something much larger than a single investigation. The pieces of the puzzle his uncovered point not only to a vast land-grabbing operation, but to a systematic abuse of power that stretches into the heart of the judiciary. And at the center of this web is Judge Valderrama, a man cloaked in legal authority but driven by greed and an unshakable belief in his own invincibility. The tension tightens as Guerrero edges closer to the truth. What began as a series of land disputes in a small community has now revealed itself to be a mask for something more sinister. Properties seized, families displaced, and those who dared to speak out silenced through fear or violence. Guerrero's evidence is mounting, but the closer he gets, the more dangerous the path becomes. We see this danger take shape not just in anonymous threats or ambushes in dark alleys, but in the shifting behavior of those around him. Colleagues once loyal begin to pull away, his allies grow fearful, and his superiors start offering veiled warnings cloaked in friendly concern. Despite this, Guerrero's resolve deepens. He becomes more guarded, more intense. FPJ's portrayal shifts subtly here, from the dutiful officer to a man who realizes he may be the only barrier between justice and total collapse. The emotional weight he carries is palpable in every glance, every moment of silence. And it's in these quieter scenes, his long stares into the city skyline, his heavy steps through crime scenes, the hushed moments with friends who still believe in him, that the film reminds us, he is still human, still vulnerable. One of the pivotal developments in this half is Guerrero's decision to go public. He begins to leak information through a trusted journalist, hoping the media's reach can protect the truth if he cannot. This move, while courageous, sends ripples through the underworld he's threatening to expose. Suddenly, the threats become direct and more brutal. Friends of Guerrero start disappearing. A trusted informant is found dead, staged to look like a suicide, but Guerrero knows better. It's a warning. Judge Valderrama, once operating from the shadows, now steps forward. With his control over courtrooms, legal procedures, and the police hierarchy, he orchestrates a campaign to destroy Guerrero's credibility. False charges are filed against him. A rigged internal affairs investigation is launched. The media begins to question his mental stability. And yet, amidst this storm, Guerrero refuses to back down. There's a moment, raw and powerful, where he stands alone outside the police precinct, staring up at the institution he once believed in. His silence in that moment says more than words ever could. But the film doesn't let us linger in despair. It quickly pivots to a glimmer of hope. Guerrero uncovers a key witness, an insider in Valderrama's inner circle who has grown tired of the bloodshed. This character, initially reluctant and broken by fear, gradually becomes a beacon of truth. Their relationship with Guerrero is tentative at first, shaped by mutual distrust, but eventually evolves into a bond of mutual respect. Through this witness, Guerrero pieces together a final chain of evidence linking Valderrama not only to the land grabs but to a series of assassinations carried out to silence opposition. In the lead-up to the climax, the pacing becomes relentless. Guerrero, now hunted by both criminals and corrupt officials, is forced to work in the shadows. He uses back alleys, safe houses, and anonymous contacts to finalize his case. The tension is not just physical, it's psychological. The audience feels every tick of the clock, every close call, every whisper of betrayal. Then comes the turning point, the ambush. Guerrero and the witness are attacked en route to a secret press conference. Bullets fly in a chaotic, gritty gunfight through the streets. FPJ, stoic and unflinching, fights like a man with nothing to lose. He shields the witness, defends the evidence, and escapes by the skin of his teeth. But this time, he doesn't run, he charges forward. The final act of the film brings us to the courthouse, the place where justice has been perverted for far too long. Guerrero, battered and blooded, bursts into the courtroom not as a defendant or witness, but as a man bringing judgment. The climax here isn't a violent showdown, it's a war of truths. Guerrero lays out the evidence in front of stunned officials and press. The audience watches in silence, hearts pounding, as he speaks directly to Valderrama, dismantling his power piece by piece. It is one of the most unforgettable moments in the film, not because of action, but because of truth spoken without fear. Valderrama, for all his arrogance, realizes too late that his empire is crumbling. The court, now with national attention, has no choice but to act. He's arrested, but the look in his eyes tells us he never thought this day would come. Guerrero doesn't celebrate. He doesn't smile. He simply walks away, exhausted. Not victorious, but at peace. As the film winds down, we're left with lingering images. Guerrero standing at the graves of those he couldn't save. The community he fought for slowly rebuilding. Children running through once silent streets. And that final shot, Guerrero alone, back in uniform, watching the sunrise. A sunrise that once felt distant, now breaking through the dark. Every narrative thread finds its place. Every twist pays off. And every emotional note lands with precision. What the second half of Hindi ka na Sisikatan ing Araw does so masterfully is remind us that heroism isn't about glory. It's about doing what's right, even when it costs everything. The film doesn't give us a happy ending. It gives us a real one. And in that realism lies its power. This isn't just an action film. It's a reckoning. A story of one man who stood tall when the world around him fell apart. And by the time the credits roll, we understand the title in full. Not just as a threat to the villains, but as a promise that truth, no matter how dark the night, will always find the dawn. From the moment Hindi ka na Sisikatan ing Araw begins, it becomes clear that this isn't just another action film. It's a cinematic statement layered with subtle storytelling, visual cues, and narrative callbacks that reward attentive viewers. Beneath its surface of grit, gunfights, and moral reckoning lies a world filled with hidden meanings, intentional design choices, and quiet echoes from the broader world of Filipino cinema and history. These aren't just throwaway details. They are the very threads that give the film its richness and resonance. One of the earliest hidden details surfaces in the way Lieutenant Bobby Guerrero's opening scene is framed. He's shown in uniform, lit from behind by a rising sun, a symbol that ironically plays with the film's title, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ing Araw, you shall no longer see the light of day. This deliberate imagery foreshadows not just the darkness that Guerrero must walk into but also his role as a rare beam of light in a decaying system. It's a subtle but powerful inversion of expectations. While others may be consumed by shadows, Guerrero still stands in the dawn's glow, at least for now. As the narrative progresses, the cinematography becomes a vehicle for foreshadowing the film's key emotional and narrative turns. Shadows are used extensively, not just for atmosphere but for meaning. In early scenes, Characters often speak from half-lit rooms or behind grates and blinds, visually trapped by the system they serve. But Guerrero is frequently shot in wide frames or open spaces, suggesting freedom, clarity, and moral openness. It's not just lighting, it's visual storytelling with intention. When Guerrero begins to lose his footing later in the film, even his framing becomes tighter and darker, paralleling his descent into a world where truth is increasingly hard to find. A particularly clever Easter egg lies in the naming of certain characters and locations. Valderrama, the name of Eddie Garcia's character, is a nod to real-life historical figures known for their conflicting legacies of authority and tyranny. It's not an overt reference, but for those familiar with political history, the name carries weight. It also mirrors Guerrero, whose very name means warrior, emphasizing the archetypal battle at the film's core, the righteous fighter versus the corrupt institution. Even the precinct number where Guerrero is stationed reflects an actual jurisdiction known for real-life political unrest during the late 80s and early 90s, grounding the film in a subtle layer of realism. Beyond the symbolic, there are also meta-cinematic nods that fans of Filipino action films, especially the FPJ filmography, will appreciate. There's a scene where Guerrero disarms a thug using a handkerchief, an homage to an almost identical move used by Poe's character in Ang Provinciano, 1987. This isn't coincidental, it's a deliberate wink to longtime fans, a way of saying that Guerrero is part of the same legacy of justice seekers Poe has embodied throughout his career. Later, when Guerrero walks through a crowded marketplace in search of an informant, the camera lingers just a second longer on a poster in the background. It's for a fictional movie titled Makatarungan, meaning just, again reinforcing the film's obsession with righteousness and its often costly pursuit. Even in the wardrobe and set design, the film buries subtle symbols. Guerrero always wears a plain silver watch, never flashy, never removed. It's a symbol of his discipline, but also a quiet reminder that time is running out, both for him and for the corrupt system he's trying to expose. Judge Valderrama, on the other hand, is almost always seen wearing a crimson tie or robe, a not-so-subtle allusion to power, blood, and moral compromise. Their clothing becomes a silent dialogue, as expressive as any line of dialogue. One of the most emotionally potent Easter eggs can be found in the photograph Guerrero keeps tucked in his wallet, a faded picture of his family, lost to violence hinted at but never fully explained. This photograph appears several times throughout the movie, but only briefly, always when Guerrero is alone and vulnerable. What many viewers miss is how the photo becomes more worn with each appearance, almost as if mirroring Guerrero's own fraying resolve. By the time of the final confrontation, the photo is barely visible, almost ghost-like, perhaps suggesting not just the passage of time, but the distance between what Guerrero fights for and what he has already lost. Foreshadowing is also skillfully woven into the dialogue. Early in the film, when Guerrero is warned by a superior to let some battles go, it seems like a casual line. But this warning resurfaces in echoing fashion during the film's final courtroom scene, when Valderrama bitterly accuses Guerrero of not knowing when to back down. The repetition of this theme, of choosing which battles to fight, threads through the narrative and subtly asks the viewer, is it better to survive within a broken system or risk everything to change it? The film also references real-life political anxieties without ever directly naming them. A brief news broadcast heard in the background talks about irregularities in local land distribution, a nod to the political scandals surrounding land reform in the Philippines during the late 1980s and early 1990s. This grounding in real issues gives the fictional narrative added heft. It tells the viewer, this story may be dramatized, but the struggle is real. In fact, several of the side characters, community leaders, displaced families, and protesters, mirror real social archetypes of the time, adding a layer of documentary-like authenticity to the story. A lesser-known but poignant detail comes during a scene where Guerrero visits a former mentor for advice. The mentor's home is filled with dusty law books, and at one point, the camera pans across a spine titled Justice is Blind. It's a fleeting image, but loaded with irony. The film, after all, is about how justice can be willfully blind when in the hands of the corrupt. Yet the mentor, disillusioned but still principled, says something that ties the visual to the theme: justice can be blind, but it doesn't have to be deaf too. It's one of those moments that sticks not because it's flashy, but because it hits a nerve. Fans who pay attention to the score will notice something else too. The main musical theme, introduced in Guerrero's first appearance, returns at several points but is subtly altered each time. It begins as bold and heroic, but by the midpoint, it becomes more somber, more uncertain. After the ambush scene, it plays with a heavy bass line, as though dragging under the weight of all Guerrero has lost. But in the final scene, as the sun rises and Guerrero walks alone once more, the theme returns in its original form, soft, resolute, and clear. The music itself becomes a character, evolving with Guerrero's journey and reflecting his emotional state in ways dialogue cannot. Even small background characters carry Easter eggs. A seemingly random street vendor appears in 2 scenes, one early on, and one much later, each time providing Guerrero with seemingly trivial information. But in both instances, the vendor is humming the same folk tune, a lullaby about the inevitability of truth rising, no matter how deeply it's buried. Most viewers won't even register it. But those who do realize this character isn't just a vendor. He's a symbolic echo of the film's moral thesis. Truth, like the sun, cannot be hidden forever. There's also a beautiful symmetry in the way scenes are mirrored. The film opens with Guerrero helping a young boy escape a street fight, and near the film's end, that same boy reappears, now standing up to a corrupt officer. It's a full-circle moment that subtly suggests Guerrero's actions have ripple effects, even if he doesn't realize it. Change, the film says, doesn't always come in grand victories. Sometimes, it comes in the quiet courage we pass on to others. In many ways, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw is a treasure trove of carefully placed visual metaphors, narrative echoes, and cinematic references that deepen the emotional experience. These hidden details aren't just for show. They enrich the film's themes, reinforce its character arcs, and reward those who look closer. Each moment is crafted not just to entertain, but to provoke thought, to inspire connection, and to reflect the moral complexity of a world where truth must fight to be seen. In the end, the film leaves behind more than just a story. It leaves behind questions. How many battles must a man fight before he breaks? How many sacrifices are too many for justice? And perhaps most importantly, how many of us are really watching close enough to see what's hidden in plain sight? The making of Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 is as rich in its behind-the-scenes stories as it is in its cinematic achievement. Every film has its hidden tales, but this particular production holds some truly fascinating anecdotes, unexpected challenges, and stories that show just how much heart went into creating what would become a cult classic in Filipino cinema. It wasn't just the gripping narrative or the stellar performances that made this movie a standout. It was also the passion, the moments of tension, and the deep respect for the craft that shaped its production. One of the most fascinating aspects of this film's production was the way it brought together a powerhouse of Filipino talent, both in front of and behind the camera. Fernando Poe Jr., one of the most iconic figures in Philippine cinema, was not only the lead actor but also the film's producer. His influence on the project was felt in every aspect, from casting to creative decisions. Poe's larger-than-life persona was synonymous with the very heart of Filipino action cinema, and his involvement ensured that the film would maintain its authenticity. But producing a film, especially one of this magnitude, was never a smooth process. Despite the high expectations, the production encountered a series of challenges. One of the more unexpected hurdles was the tight shooting schedule, which sometimes left little room for error. The film required a lot of action sequences, which meant the cast and crew were constantly on the move, working under pressure to get every shot right. The action scenes, which often involved complex choreography and stunts, were particularly difficult to pull off. At one point, Fernando Poe Jr. insisted on doing many of his own stunts, even in scenes that were considered dangerous. This commitment to authenticity, while admirable, resulted in a few close calls. There was a particular stunt involving a car chase, where Poe's vehicle was supposed to swerve dangerously close to a barricade. According to the crew, Poe, always the professional, insisted on doing the scene without the usual safety measures. The shot was perfect, but it left everyone on set holding their breath. It was this kind of intensity that defined the spirit of the film. The intensity wasn't confined to just the action sequences. The weather also played a significant role in complicating matters. The filming took place during the rainy season, which meant that many scenes had to be reshot because of weather disruptions. The crew found themselves fighting the elements, often working through the night to catch clear skies for crucial outdoor shots. One particularly difficult stretch saw the production halted for several days due to the floods that swept through the filming location, causing a delay that threatened to derail the project. This forced the team to work overtime, with long hours and added stress, but the resilience and determination of the crew kept things on track. Yet, it wasn't just the external factors that posed challenges. The complex relationships between the film's characters also reflected the tension on set. Fernando Poe Jr. and Eddie Garcia, two of the film's biggest stars, were both legendary actors in their own right. While they had a deep respect for each other, the chemistry between them on-screen mirrored a subtle rivalry off-screen. Both were known for their intense professionalism and commitment to their craft, but they had very different approaches to acting. Poe, known for his naturalistic style, preferred to improvise and allow the scenes to breathe. Garcia, on the other hand, was a more methodical actor, carefully considering each line and gesture before executing it. This contrast led to some interesting moments during rehearsals, where their approaches clashed. The director, Pablo Santiago, had to balance these two strong personalities and ensure the tension between their characters translated onto the screen without escalating into anything beyond friendly competition. Despite this, it's evident that their performances as Guerrero and Valderrama created an unforgettable dynamic that elevated the film to new heights. The film's cinematography, led by Reyes, was also an area where the team faced creative challenges. The vision for Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw was clear from the beginning. It needed to capture the gritty, raw essence of the Filipino landscape and the unyielding nature of the characters. However, achieving this visual style wasn't easy. The film's color palette, designed to evoke a sense of bleakness and despair, had to be executed meticulously. Scenes often relied on dim lighting, fog, and stark contrasts between light and dark to underscore the moral ambiguity of the narrative. This atmospheric style was groundbreaking for Filipino cinema at the time, but it wasn't always easy to achieve. The production team had to constantly adapt to the lighting conditions, especially in outdoor scenes, where the sun was sometimes too harsh, creating unflattering shadows. The lighting crew had to improvise with reflectors and diffusers, working against the clock to get each shot just right. One of the film's standout creative decisions was the use of music. Nonong Buencamino and Jamie Fabregas, the film's composers, crafted a hauntingly beautiful score that underscored the film's themes of justice, sacrifice, and moral conflict. The music was not only functional but deeply emotional, playing a key role in amplifying the stakes of every scene. What's particularly fascinating is how the music was designed to evolve alongside the characters. Early on, the score was dramatic and hopeful, capturing the heroism of Guerrero. As the film progressed and Guerrero's journey became more complicated, the music mirrored his descent into the moral gray areas of the story. This subtle shift in musical tone played a crucial part in shaping the film's emotional arc and was one of the reasons the film resonated so deeply with audiences. Behind the camera, the collaboration between the crew was an intricate dance of creativity, time constraints, and technical challenges. The set design played a pivotal role in creating the world of Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw. The team painstakingly recreated the gritty streets and claustrophobic interiors that reflected the societal decay and moral decay at the heart of the narrative. The production designers were keen to make every location feel authentic, from the rundown apartments to the dilapidated alleyways where crucial scenes unfolded. This attention to detail helped ground the film in a recognizable world, making the story feel both immediate and timeless. However, one of the most surprising behind-the-scenes stories involved a key moment in the film that nearly didn't happen. In one of the final scenes, Lieutenant Guerrero is faced with an impossible decision that would define his character and the trajectory of the plot. Initially, the script had Guerrero making a dramatic, almost heroic decision, but after several readings, Fernando Poe Jr. felt the character would be better served by a more complex choice. He pushed for a change in the script, urging the filmmakers to allow Guerrero's decision to remain morally ambiguous. thus making the film's conclusion more poignant and reflective of the themes of justice and corruption. This change added a layer of depth to the character and the film, but it nearly led to some heated debates on set, with others arguing that the original ending was the more commercially viable option. In the end, Poe's instincts won out, and the altered ending became one of the defining moments of the film. The film's legacy, however, wasn't without its controversies. The portrayal of corruption within the legal system struck a nerve with many viewers, particularly those in positions of power. Some critics saw the film as an unflattering portrayal of the Philippine justice system, and there were whispers that certain government officials were displeased with the film's depiction of institutional corruption. While the film's creators stood by their vision, the controversy surrounding it only served to amplify its cultural impact, sparking debates about the role of the government in shaping the media landscape. In terms of casting, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw also broke new ground. Many of the supporting roles were filled by up-and-coming actors who would go on to have long careers in Filipino cinema. One notable example is Guerrero, a child actor at the time who played a pivotal role in the film. His performance stood out, and the film marked a turning point in his career, as he transitioned from child roles to more mature performances in future films. Similarly, Jono Gibbs, who was relatively unknown at the time, found his star rising after his appearance in the film. Both actors would later reflect on how the experience of working with seasoned veterans like Fernando Poe Jr. and Garcia shaped their own careers and acting styles. Through its blend of intense action, moral complexity, and emotional depth, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw remains one of the most important films in Filipino cinema. Its production, rife with unexpected challenges, creative debates, and passionate commitment from its cast and crew, is a testament to the enduring power of film as both an art form and a vehicle for social commentary. The behind-the-scenes stories only enhance the movie's legend, showing that sometimes the making of a great film is as captivating as the story it tells. The exploration of Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 reveals its brilliance not only in its overall narrative but also in the carefully crafted moments that punctuate the story. These key scenes, while each contributing to the plot's progression, are also deeply interwoven with the themes of justice, sacrifice, and corruption that define the film. Through these moments, the film creates a rich emotional landscape that holds the audience captive, constantly shifting between action, tension, and introspection. Let's dive into some of the pivotal scenes that not only impact the direction of the story but also shape the emotional and thematic weight of the film. One of the first major turning points occurs when Guerrero, played by Fernando Poe Jr., faces the decision to confront corruption within his own ranks. The scene is set with the backdrop of a gritty, unforgiving Manila, emphasizing the harsh reality of a justice system tainted by greed and power. Guerrero, a man deeply committed to his ideals, has spent the early part of the movie holding onto his moral compass, believing that his role as a lawman allows him to effect change. This moment is pivotal because it forces him to confront the very system he has long protected. The confrontation happens quietly at first. There's no grandstanding, no dramatic speeches, but the weight of the decision hangs heavily in the air. The cinematography in this scene is deliberate. The dim lighting, coupled with the sharp shadows, creates an atmosphere of uncertainty, mirroring Guerrero's internal conflict. There's a sense of isolation in the frame, as if Guerrero is standing alone in a world that no longer aligns with his beliefs. This visual choice serves not only to heighten the tension, but also to underscore the isolation that often accompanies moral choices. The lighting fluctuates subtly, representing the battle between Guerrero's own integrity and the temptation to turn a blind eye to the system's failings. This moment sets the tone for the rest of the film, signaling that Guerrero's journey will be that the true cost of justice will be far greater than he initially anticipated. As the film progresses, the moral stakes become even higher. Another crucial turning point happens when Guerrero's actions lead to personal consequences that directly affect those around him. It's at this moment in the film that the emotional core begins to fully emerge. Guerrero's choices have always been driven by a sense of duty, but he begins to see the ripple effects of his decisions on the people he loves. The scene, which is charged with emotion, shows Guerrero struggling to balance his duty with his familial responsibilities. It's a heart-wrenching moment because the audience has seen Guerrero as a man of principle up until this point, and to witness him begin to question whether the cost of his ideals is worth it introduces a powerful emotional dilemma. The emotional weight of this scene is amplified by the juxtaposition of Guerrero's stoic demeanor and the vulnerability that creeps into his expressions. Fernando Poe Jr.'s performance in this scene is particularly compelling. His eyes, usually full of determination and resolve, begin to show a flicker of doubt, and it's in these subtle moments that the audience truly connects with the character. It's a reminder that even the most resolute individuals are forced to grapple with the consequences of their actions. This scene not only marks a shift in Guerrero's personal journey but also highlights one of the film's central themes: the price of moral integrity in a world that often rewards compromise. However, perhaps the most significant scene in the film occurs when Guerrero is forced into a morally ambiguous choice that will ultimately define the conclusion of his journey. The film builds up to this moment with a sense of inevitable tension, as if the audience is hurtling toward a final reckoning. The situation Guerrero faces is one that forces him to decide whether to protect his own survival or sacrifice his principles for the greater good. The film masterfully captures the internal struggle in this moment. The framing of the scene is tight, focusing on Guerrero's face as he contemplates his decision. There's a palpable sense of time running out, and the weight of the decision becomes almost unbearable. This moment is critical because it encapsulates the film's central themes of justice and sacrifice. Guerrero's dilemma is not just a personal one. It speaks to the larger systemic issues at play throughout the story. The film has spent a considerable amount of time showing the corruption that permeates society, and Guerrero's struggle now represents the ultimate question. Can one individual truly make a difference in a world so deeply entrenched in moral decay? It's an existential question, and the film doesn't offer a clear answer. The ambiguity of the moment is what makes it so compelling, forcing the audience to question their own values and the cost of doing what is right. The build-up to this moment is executed with such precision that when it finally arrives, the audience feels as though they've been on this journey with Guerrero every step of the way. The pacing is tight, and the dialogue is sparse, allowing the tension to simmer just beneath the surface. The minimalism in the scene is a deliberate choice, as it forces the audience to focus entirely on the character's internal struggle. The music, which had once been dramatic and sweeping, now takes on a more subdued tone, mirroring Guerrero's growing sense of resignation. The sound design, too, plays a key role, with every creak of the floorboards, every exhale, and every shifting of weight contributing to the mounting sense of urgency. The scene is masterfully crafted to be as emotionally intense as it is narratively significant. The emotional impact of this pivotal moment extends far beyond the immediate aftermath. As the film moves toward its conclusion, the decision Guerrero makes in this scene reverberates throughout the rest of the story, affecting not only his fate but also the fates of the other characters. The emotional weight of the choice is not resolved quickly. Rather, the film lingers on its consequences, making the audience feel the full extent of what has been lost and gained. This lingering impact is key to the film's emotional resonance. It's not a moment that is easily forgotten, and it forces the audience to reflect on the themes of the film long after the credits roll. One final moment that deserves special attention is the film's closing scene, which ties together the narrative threads of justice, sacrifice, and redemption. By this point in the film, Guerrero has undergone a profound transformation. The man who once held fast to his ideals is now deeply scarred by the choices he has had to make. The closing scene shows him walking away from the wreckage of his past, having sacrificed his personal happiness for the greater good. There's no triumph in his departure, only a quiet resignation. The choice to end the film on this note of ambiguity is a bold one, and it forces the audience to consider the true nature of justice in an imperfect world. The film leaves no easy answers, only questions about what it means to fight for what is right in a world that often seems bent on tearing that very concept down. What makes this final scene particularly poignant is the visual symbolism. The camera lingers on Guerrero's back as he walks away, symbolizing the burden he carries. The landscape around him is desolate, mirroring the emptiness that now defines his existence. There is no sense of closure or resolution, only the quiet acknowledgement that, in the end, justice is not something that can always be easily attained, and sacrifice is often a thankless endeavor. It's a conclusion that is both emotionally raw and thematically complex, leaving the audience to grapple with the consequences of Guerrero's journey long after the film has ended. The emotional and thematic impact of these key moments in Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw cannot be overstated. They are not simply plot points but are deeply ingrained in the fabric of the story, shaping the audience's experience in ways both subtle and overt. Each moment serves a larger purpose, not only advancing the plot but also enriching the emotional landscape of the film. Through these pivotal scenes, the movie becomes a reflection on the complexities of morality, the consequences of one's choices, and the high cost of standing up for what is right. The careful execution of these moments, from the build-up to the final resolution, ensures that the film remains an unforgettable exploration of human nature and the struggle for justice. The making of Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 is a journey through the fusion of artistry, technical prowess, and unwavering determination. While the film stands as an emotional and gripping narrative, the journey behind the camera reveals just how many meticulous choices and challenges were involved in crafting this iconic piece of Filipino cinema. The dedication of its cast and crew, coupled with groundbreaking techniques, elevated the film to a level that resonated with audiences, making it not only a box office hit but also a cinematic achievement. At the heart of the film's technical brilliance lies the vision of its director, Pablo Santiago. Known for his meticulous approach to filmmaking, Santiago's ability to weave complex emotions into tightly paced sequences proved instrumental in bringing the story to life. One of the most fascinating aspects of Santiago's direction is how he used the medium to capture the raw, gritty atmosphere of the film's urban settings. From the cramped alleyways of Manila to the open but unforgiving spaces where pivotal showdowns occur, Santiago ensured the environment itself became a character, adding to the emotional weight of the film. His decision to use real locations, rather than studio sets, contributed to the authenticity of the film, making the streets of Manila feel alive and almost tangible. Santiago's vision was brought to life by a talented group of collaborators, chief among them being the cinematographer, Reyes. Reyes' approach to lighting and framing was integral in shaping the tone and mood of the film. The decision to use low-key lighting for many of the film's intense sequences creates an atmosphere of suspense and foreboding, reflecting the moral ambiguity that defines Guerrero's journey. The shadows are not merely a technical choice but are deeply tied to the narrative, signifying the looming danger, the hidden corruption, and the internal conflict that the protagonist faces. Reyes also employed a striking color palette that balanced the bleakness of the film's world with fleeting moments of hope. These visual choices were key in establishing the film's distinctive look and feel, setting it apart from other Filipino action films at the time. One of the most remarkable technical feats of the film lies in its action sequences, which blend realism and spectacle in a way that was ahead of its time. The action scenes, particularly the car chases and shootouts, were executed with an intensity that felt grounded in the real world, yet remained thrilling and cinematic. The film's production team, including seasoned stunt coordinators, worked tirelessly to ensure each stunt was not only believable but also safe. Fernando Poe Jr., who was known for his hands-on approach to action, insisted on performing many of his own stunts. One particularly harrowing moment involved a car chase through the tight streets of Manila, where Poe's vehicle narrowly avoided colliding with a wall. According to the stunt team, the close call was not part of the script, but Poe's dedication to capturing the essence of his character made him unwilling to let a stunt double take the risk. Despite the technical challenges, the filmmakers never compromised on authenticity. The urban chaos of Manila, the traffic jams, the humid heat, and the relentless pace of life were captured in such vivid detail that they became an integral part of the film's identity. The production team worked around the clock to shoot during the ideal times of day, often starting at dawn to catch the first light filtering through the streets, which added a sense of realism to the urban environment. The movie also made use of a handheld camera for some of its action sequences, which gave the scenes a more immersive and urgent feeling. The constant motion of the camera, coupled with the frenzied pace of the action, created an unrelenting sense of tension that kept viewers on the edge of their seats. However, the action scenes were not the only areas where the film displayed technical excellence. One of the standout features of the film is its innovative use of sound design. In many scenes, the sound of the environment, the distant honking of car horns, the chatter of pedestrians, the echo of footsteps in empty corridors, was used not just for realism but to enhance the emotional undertones of the story. For instance, in one key scene where Guerrero is walking through an alley, the sharp contrast between the distant noises of the city and the complete silence around him reflects his inner isolation. This subtle manipulation of sound elevates the tension, creating an atmosphere where even the smallest sound feels loaded with significance. The music, composed by Nonong Buencamino and Jamie Fabregas, is another area where technical prowess was on full display. The film's score is a seamless blend of orchestral music and traditional Filipino instruments, creating a unique auditory landscape. The music plays a crucial role in shaping the emotional tone of the film, underscoring the highs and lows of Guerrero's journey. During action sequences, the score heightens the intensity, while in more intimate moments, it takes on a more somber and reflective quality. One particularly powerful moment occurs during a pivotal scene when Guerrero faces a moral dilemma. The music shifts from a swelling, heroic tune to a melancholic motif, mirroring Guerrero's internal struggle. The composer's ability to evoke such emotion through music is a testament to their skill and understanding of the film's themes. In terms of visual storytelling, the film's use of symbolic imagery stands out. One of the most striking symbols throughout the movie is the recurring motif of light and shadow. This visual motif serves as a constant reminder of the dualities at play within Guerrero, his struggle between the light of justice and the shadow of corruption. The way the filmmakers use light, sometimes casting Guerrero's face in shadow, sometimes illuminating it with a sharp burst of light, emphasizes the moral complexity of the character. In these moments, light and shadow are not just technical choices but integral elements of the film's thematic structure, making the visual language as important as the dialogue itself. The technical achievements of Hindi Ka Sisikatan in Araw were not limited to the conventional aspects of filmmaking. One particularly groundbreaking element was the film's innovative use of editing to maintain the tension and emotional pacing. The film's editor, Benji Puno, employed a non-linear structure in certain parts of the movie, using flashbacks to reveal key pieces of Guerrero's past at pivotal moments in the narrative. This technique not only added layers of depth to the character, but also created a more engaging experience for the audience. The flashbacks, often interspersed with tense action sequences, allowed the film to provide necessary backstory while maintaining its forward momentum. The editing choices here were unconventional for the time, but they gave the film a dynamic quality that elevated it above many other action films of the era. In addition to the technical feats, there were also several anecdotes from the production that shed light on the challenges the crew faced. One memorable story from the shoot involves a particularly ambitious scene where Guerrero is involved in a high-speed chase through the streets of Manila. The crew had to coordinate with the local authorities to block off several streets, but just as the scene was set to be filmed, a sudden rainstorm hit, soaking the entire set. Rather than calling it a day, the team used the unexpected weather to their advantage, incorporating the rain into the scene. The result was a car chase that felt more intense and unpredictable, with the wet streets reflecting the headlights in a way that created an almost surreal atmosphere. This moment exemplifies the adaptability and resourcefulness of the production team, turning an unfortunate setback into a creative opportunity. Another behind-the-scenes anecdote involves Fernando Poe Jr.'s intense commitment to his role. Known for his devotion to his characters, Poe insisted on doing nearly all of his own stunts, which put him in some dangerous situations. In one memorable instance, during a fight sequence in which Guerrero is confronted by a gang of corrupt officers, Poe decided to take the hit himself rather than relying on a stunt double. While the scene was meant to look choreographed, Poe's physicality and emotional engagement in the moment made the fight feel raw and real, adding to the authenticity of the action. The collaborative effort of the entire crew, director, cinematographer, composer, editor, and the entire cast played a pivotal role in making Hindi Ka Sisikatan in Araw a landmark film. Each creative choice was made with the intention of immersing the audience in the world of Guerrero and the dark, morally complex landscape he navigates. The production's ability to marry technical excellence with storytelling resulted in a film that not only tells a compelling story but also becomes an experience. From the gritty realism of the action sequences to the subtle symbolism in its visual style, every element of the production contributed to the movie's lasting impact. It's a testament to the dedication, creativity, and innovation of the filmmakers, whose work continues to influence Filipino cinema to this day. In the years since its release, the film has become a touchstone for filmmakers, both for its technical achievements and its bold approach to storytelling. The behind-the-scenes decisions that shaped Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw are not just interesting anecdotes but are essential to understanding why the film has left such a lasting legacy. From the remarkable cinematography to the pioneering sound design and editing techniques, every aspect of the film was crafted with care, resulting in a movie that remains a timeless classic in the annals of Filipino cinema. Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 is not just a thrilling action film. It is a rich tapestry of themes and symbolism that engage deeply with the social, political, and cultural fabric of its time. At first glance, the film seems to follow the familiar tropes of crime and justice, with its protagonist, Guerrero, embodying the archetypal lawman caught in a world of corruption. However, as the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that the film is a much deeper exploration of morality, sacrifice, and the complicated relationship between the individual and society. The themes within Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw reverberate beyond the confines of the story, resonating with real-world issues that continue to challenge contemporary society. One of the most prominent themes in the film is the corrupting influence of power. Guerrero, a man of principles, enters a system that seems dedicated to justice, only to discover that the forces within it have become irreparably tainted by greed and self-interest. This central conflict, of a man trying to uphold moral integrity in a system that no longer values such ideals, speaks directly to the complexities of political and institutional corruption. Guerrero's journey is one of disillusionment, where his unwavering faith in justice is tested, and ultimately, he learns that the system is too broken to fix from within. This theme mirrors real-world struggles against government corruption, societal indifference, and the ongoing battle between the people and powerful institutions that are supposed to serve them. As Guerrero tries to make a difference within this corrupted system, the film explores the personal cost of fighting for justice. In one of the most emotionally charged moments, Guerrero realizes that his moral stance, his insistence on doing what is right, is costing him his relationships and, ultimately, his peace of mind. This theme is not just a personal struggle but also a commentary on the societal cost of integrity. The film asks the question, can a person truly change the world without paying a personal price? This notion touches upon a fundamental dilemma that many people face when attempting to challenge corrupt structures. Do we preserve our integrity at the cost of personal sacrifice, or do we bend to the pressures of the world around us? The movie also delves into the consequences of corruption and the violence that inevitably accompanies it. While Guerrero's quest for justice is noble, the film makes it clear that violence is often the language of a broken system. As the film progresses, the lines between good and evil blur, showing that even the heroes of the story must sometimes embrace the very methods they once despised in order to survive. This conflict between maintaining moral high ground and embracing pragmatism speaks to the constant tension between idealism and realism that many face in society. The film does not offer a clear-cut answer to this dilemma but rather leaves it open for interpretation, reflecting the messy nature of real-world politics and human relationships. Underlying these central themes is a strong sense of social commentary, particularly in its depiction of poverty and the vast gap between the powerful and the disenfranchised. The film presents a grim picture of a society where the underprivileged are left to fend for themselves while the rich and powerful grow even more entrenched in their positions. Guerrero, as a character, is not only fighting against systemic corruption within the police force but also against a larger societal structure that perpetuates inequality. His personal journey becomes a metaphor for the struggles of many Filipinos who feel trapped within a cycle of poverty and exploitation, unable to break free from a system that favors the wealthy and powerful. This is evident in the way the film's cinematography highlights the contrast between the rich and the poor. The lush, clean environments of the corrupt elite are juxtaposed with the chaotic, grimy streets of the working class. These visuals speak to the growing divide in Filipino society, a divide that continues to widen to this day. The film's portrayal of Guerrero's internal struggle further reflects the cultural and societal tensions at the heart of the story. Guerrero's character can be seen as a reflection of the traditional Filipino concept of kapwa, or shared humanity. Guerrero's inability to ignore the suffering of others, even at great personal cost, ties into the Filipino value of community and solidarity. However, the film also critiques the way these values are often exploited or corrupted in a society that prioritizes power and wealth over human connection. Guerrero's journey, therefore, becomes a commentary on the erosion of these ideals in the face of societal pressures and systemic failures. His moral dilemmas reflect the internal conflict of many Filipinos who struggle to reconcile their sense of community with the harsh realities of a world that often rewards selfishness. The concept of betrayal, a Filipino cultural phrase that loosely translates to "come what may," is also explored in the film. This phrase embodies the Filipino spirit of resilience and acceptance of fate, particularly in the face of hardship. The film grapples with this notion through Guerrero's acceptance of his fate. While he strives for justice, he is also keenly aware that his fight might be futile in the larger scheme of things. This duality is evident in the way Guerrero approaches the violence and corruption around him. He doesn't seek to change everything but rather to do what he can, knowing full well that the forces stacked against him are too powerful to overcome. In this sense, the film presents a nuanced interpretation of betrayal as both a coping mechanism and a passive acceptance of the limitations imposed by society and fate. At the heart of the film's thematic exploration is the idea of sacrifice. Guerrero's journey is defined by his willingness to sacrifice his personal happiness, his relationships, and ultimately his life for the sake of a greater good. The theme of sacrifice resonates not only on a personal level but also on a societal one, with the film suggesting that true change often requires people to make enormous personal sacrifices. This theme can be viewed as a commentary on the challenges faced by activists, whistleblowers, and ordinary citizens who stand up against the status quo in an effort to bring about social change. Guerrero, as a tragic hero, represents the cost of such sacrifice, the toll it takes on the individual and the people around them. In this way, the film speaks to a larger societal question about what is required for progress and who is willing to pay the price. In addition to its exploration of personal sacrifice, the film also deals with the theme of redemption. While Guerrero's journey is primarily one of disillusionment and moral conflict, the movie suggests that there is still room for redemption even within the most corrupt systems. The closing moments of the film, where Guerrero is seen walking away from the wreckage of his life, are infused with a sense of bittersweet hope. Although he has lost much, he has also retained his core sense of justice, suggesting that redemption is possible, even if it comes at a steep price. This theme of redemption is particularly poignant given the backdrop of a society where justice is often elusive, and the film presents the idea that true redemption may not come from external forces but from within the individual. The symbolism in Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw further deepens its thematic exploration. One of the most powerful symbols in the film is the recurring image of light and shadow. Throughout the movie, Guerrero is constantly navigating between these two realms, his ideals of justice, light, constantly battling against the shadows of corruption and moral compromise. The use of shadow is particularly pronounced in the film's cinematography, where key moments are shot with heavy contrast, casting Guerrero in half-light or shadow to visually emphasize his internal conflict. This visual metaphor for the battle between good and evil, truth and corruption, is deeply symbolic of the larger struggles within Filipino society and the personal dilemmas faced by individuals trying to navigate a world rife with contradictions. Another potent symbol is the motif of the city itself. The bustling, chaotic streets of Manila serve as a reflection of the moral chaos that Guerrero faces. The city, with its overcrowded streets and polluted atmosphere, becomes a microcosm of the larger societal issues at play. The traffic jams, the litter on the streets, and the oppressive heat all serve as visual metaphors for the sense of entrapment and frustration that permeates the lives of the film's characters. Manila is not just a setting but a symbol of the system that both sustains and suffocates Guerrero, reflecting the struggle of the Filipino people as they navigate the complexities of a system that seems stacked against them. Ultimately, Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw uses its themes, symbols, and social commentary to create a film that is much more than just entertainment. It challenges its audience to reflect on the nature of justice, the impact of corruption, and the price of personal integrity. The film's exploration of these complex issues through the lens of Guerrero's journey invites viewers to engage with the broader societal questions that remain ever relevant today. In doing so, The film transcends its genre, becoming a powerful commentary on the state of society and the human condition. In Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw, kapag puno na ang salop Part 3, the cinematic techniques employed by the filmmakers, led by director Pablo Santiago, are integral to the way the story is told. The film's visual language is as much a part of the narrative as its characters and dialogue, adding layers of meaning to every moment and enriching the storytelling experience. From the framing of shots to the deliberate manipulation of lighting and sound, each technical choice is carefully crafted to heighten the emotional stakes and immerse the audience in the world of Guerrero, a man caught between the principles of justice and the corruption that surrounds him. One of the defining elements of the film's visual style is its cinematography, which plays a pivotal role in setting the tone and reinforcing the thematic concerns of the movie. The film's cinematographer, Ver Reyes, employs a mix of wide-angle shots and close-ups to create a sense of both scale and intimacy. The wide shots of Manila's dense streets establish the sprawling, chaotic urban environment in which the story unfolds. These wide frames emphasize the physical and moral entrapment of the characters, particularly Guerrero, whose struggle to bring justice to a corrupt system often feels like an insurmountable task. The claustrophobic nature of these frames mirrors Guerrero's internal conflict, trapped not only by the system but also by the limitations of his own ideals. The use of close-ups is just as impactful, particularly in moments of heightened emotion or tension. Reyes employs tight shots of Guerrero's face, capturing the subtle shifts in his expression that reveal the character's moral dilemmas, frustrations, and moments of self-reflection. The close-ups are especially effective in conveying the emotional complexity of Guerrero's journey. In several key scenes, Guerrero's face becomes the canvas upon which the film's themes of sacrifice and disillusionment are painted. For example, during the pivotal scene where Guerrero realizes the true cost of his pursuit of justice, a close-up shot lingers on his weary eyes, offering a glimpse into his tortured soul. This use of the close-up not only heightens the emotional intensity of the film, but also reinforces the idea that Guerrero's internal struggle is at the heart of the narrative. Lighting is another crucial aspect of the film's visual language. Throughout the movie, the filmmakers use light and shadow not only to create mood but also to symbolize the moral complexities at play. The film's lighting is often stark, with harsh contrasts between light and dark, reflecting the film's central conflict between good and evil. In many scenes, Guerrero is framed in such a way that half of his face is bathed in light while the other half is shrouded in shadow. This duality in lighting serves as a visual metaphor for the character's inner conflict, torn between his desire to do good and the darker impulses that come with being caught in a corrupt system. The shadowed areas of Guerrero's face suggest that even within his noble ideals, there are elements of ambiguity and compromise, emphasizing that the fight for justice is not a clear-cut path. Moreover, the use of low-key lighting in certain sequences adds an atmosphere of danger and foreboding, particularly in scenes involving conflict or violence. The dark, shadowy environments that accompany these moments mirror the sense of uncertainty and risk that Guerrero faces as he navigates a morally compromised world. Conversely, scenes of relative peace or moments of reflection are often bathed in softer, more diffused light, offering a brief respite from the darkness that dominates Guerrero's journey. The contrast between light and shadow in Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw speaks to the film's broader thematic exploration of the duality of human nature and the blurred lines between right and wrong. The film's editing is another vital aspect of its storytelling, and its choices serve to build tension and maintain the pacing of the narrative. Editor Benji Puno's work stands out for its ability to maintain a sense of rhythm while balancing action sequences with quieter, more reflective moments. The editing is fast-paced during scenes of high tension, such as the thrilling car chases and shootouts, heightening the sense of urgency and danger. Quick cuts and rapid montages are used to build suspense, particularly in moments where Guerrero faces physical or moral peril. The editing here mirrors the intensity of Guerrero's inner turmoil, where he is constantly battling against the forces of corruption and violence. At the same time, the film's editing slows down during quieter moments, allowing the audience to linger on key emotional beats. One example of this can be seen in a scene where Guerrero has a private conversation with his mentor, reflecting on the nature of justice and the price of righteousness. The pacing in this moment allows the weight of Guerrero's words to sink in, giving the audience time to process the emotional depth of his situation. This balance between fast-paced action and slower, more introspective moments is key to the film's overall tone, which fluctuates between high-stakes action and personal reflection. A particularly interesting stylistic choice in Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw is the use of handheld camera work during moments of intense action. The shaky, unsteady nature of the handheld camera mirrors the chaos and unpredictability of Guerrero's life as he becomes more entrenched in the violence and corruption around him. The film's use of handheld shots in chase sequences, fight scenes, and confrontations heightens the visceral nature of these moments. The audience feels as though they are right alongside Guerrero, experiencing the danger, the confusion, and the urgency of the situation. This technique also serves to make the action feel more grounded and real, as though the camera is not merely an observer but an active participant in the scene. In contrast, the more contemplative moments in the film are often shot with a more steady, composed camera, reinforcing the emotional weight of these scenes. For example, in a scene where Guerrero reflects on the consequences of his actions, the camera holds still as he stares into the distance, lost in thought. The stillness of the shot creates a moment of calm amid the tumultuous journey, allowing the audience to connect with the character's emotional state. The contrast between handheld and steady shots throughout the film helps to create a dynamic visual language that reflects Guerrero's inner turmoil and the ever-changing world around him. Sound design plays an equally important role in shaping the audience's emotional experience. The film's soundscape is immersive and atmospheric, contributing significantly to its mood and tension. The bustling sounds of the city, the honking of car horns, the chatter of pedestrians, the distant rumble of traffic, are ever present, grounding the story in its urban setting. These sounds are not just background noise but integral to the narrative, reflecting the chaotic, oppressive environment in which Guerrero operates. The ambient sounds of the city are often juxtaposed with moments of silence, particularly in scenes where Guerrero is alone with his thoughts. The stillness of these moments amplifies the emotional weight of the scene, allowing the audience to feel the isolation that Guerrero experiences as he grapples with his moral choices. The film's score, composed by Nonong Buencamino and Jamie Fabregas, is another key element that shapes the film's emotional tone. The score shifts seamlessly between orchestral arrangements and traditional Filipino instruments, creating a soundscape that is both sweeping and intimate. The music swells during moments of action, intensifying the thrill of the chase or the danger of a confrontation. At the same time, the score is more subdued during moments of reflection or quiet tension, allowing the film's emotional core to shine through. The musical themes that recur throughout the film are tied to Guerrero's personal journey, evoking his struggle for justice and his eventual recognition of the personal cost of his actions. In terms of visual storytelling, one of the standout aspects of Hindi ka Sisikatan in Araw is its use of symbolism to deepen the film's themes. The recurring motif of light and shadow, for instance, is not just a technical choice but a symbolic one. As previously mentioned, the use of shadows on Guerrero's face often symbolizes the moral ambiguity he faces. The tension between light and dark throughout the film mirrors Guerrero's internal struggle, his desire to do good constantly at odds with the corrupt world around him. Similarly, the city itself becomes a symbolic reflection of the moral landscape that Guerrero must navigate. The gritty, polluted streets are emblematic of the moral decay within the institutions that Guerrero seeks to reform. Another visual motif that plays a crucial role in the film's storytelling is the recurring image of broken glass. In several key moments, characters are shown through fractured glass or in the reflection of broken mirrors, symbolizing the fractured nature of their lives and the disillusionment they face. This visual metaphor underscores the theme of shattered ideals and the sense of fragmentation that defines the characters' experiences. The use of broken glass as a recurring visual motif highlights the fragility of the world Guerrero is fighting to protect and the internal fracture that he himself undergoes as the story unfolds. The film's unique stylistic choices, including its use of handheld cameras, lighting, sound design, and symbolic visuals, create a cinematic language that is both evocative and impactful. These elements are not just technical choices but integral to the way the story is told. They enhance the narrative, deepen the emotional engagement of the audience, and reinforce the thematic concerns of the film. By using visual techniques to mirror the internal struggles of the protagonist and to symbolize the moral complexities of the world around him, Hindi Kana Sisikatan ng Araw becomes a film that is as visually compelling as it is thematically rich. Through these techniques, the director and crew have crafted a film that is immersive, emotionally resonant, and a true testament to the power of cinema as a means of storytelling. The magic of Hindi Kana Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 goes beyond its technical execution and storytelling prowess. It is also deeply rooted in the performances of its stellar cast. The dynamic chemistry between the actors is not just a byproduct of their skillful performances but an essential ingredient that elevated the film's emotional impact. It's this chemistry that brings the film to life, transforming the script's written words into authentic relationships on screen. Whether it's Guerrero's unwavering moral compass clashing with the calculating indifference of the corrupt officials or the intimate connections forged through shared trauma and sacrifice, the performances and the bond between actors transcend the surface of the narrative to make the film resonate with audiences on a deeper, more emotional level. The heart of the movie is, of course, its lead actor, Robin Padilla, who portrays the titular character Guerrero. Padilla's performance is a masterclass in restraint and internal conflict. As Guerrero, Padilla seamlessly transitions between moments of steely determination and raw vulnerability. The film allows Padilla to stretch his range as an actor, from intense action sequences to quieter, more introspective moments. What makes his portrayal so captivating is not just the physicality of his performance but the emotional complexity he infuses into the role. As Guerrero navigates a morally ambiguous world, Padilla's chemistry with the supporting cast, particularly his interactions with the mentor figure, is where the depth of Guerrero's internal struggle truly emerges. Padilla's relationship with his on-screen mentor, played by the veteran actor Eddie Garcia, is one of the most poignant in the film. The dynamic between the two characters is one of wisdom and experience, balanced with youthful idealism and a thirst for justice. Garcia, known for his powerful and nuanced performances, brings gravitas and emotional weight to his role, contrasting Padilla's impassioned idealism. Their scenes together are charged with a subtle tension, Guerrero's eagerness to change the system versus his mentor's weary acceptance of its inherent flaws. The chemistry between these two actors is palpable, and their performances serve as a mirror to the generational divide in attitudes toward justice, sacrifice, and power. What's particularly fascinating is how these on-screen relationships felt deeply authentic, in part due to the rapport the cast developed during filming. According to several behind-the-scenes interviews, the actors and crew enjoyed a collaborative atmosphere on set, which translated into the genuine emotional depth seen in their performances. Padilla and Garcia's mentor-student dynamic was forged not just in their characters but also in their real-life interactions. Padilla, who admired Garcia's legacy as an actor, often spoke about how he sought advice from his seasoned co-star, and Garcia, in turn, took the time to mentor the younger actor. This sense of mentorship behind the scenes added another layer to their performances, making their on-screen bond all the more believable. The camaraderie between Padilla and the rest of the cast extended to the supporting roles, as well. The film's antagonist, portrayed by Jay Manalo, brought a chilling sense of coldness and manipulation to his role, making him a worthy adversary to Guerrero. Manalo's intense performance was bolstered by the film's lighting and framing, making him seem even more imposing when paired with Padilla's more morally-centered character. In interviews, Manalo recalled the process of finding the right balance of menace and calculation for his character, noting how the directors and fellow actors helped shape his approach. The chemistry between Padilla and Manalo is an intricate dance, Guerrero's morality constantly in contrast to the antagonist's ruthlessness, making their on-screen battles all the more thrilling. The two actors, despite their roles as enemies, developed a deep respect for each other during filming, which only heightened the tension in their scenes together. The supporting cast, too, played an essential role in rounding out the emotional and narrative complexity of the film. Characters like the love interest, played by Krista Ranillo, and the moral counterpoint to Guerrero's idealism, were crucial in giving the film emotional depth beyond its action sequences. Ranillo's performance as the woman caught between her feelings for Guerrero and the pressure to conform to a society that rewards corruption was an excellent foil to Padilla's character. Her chemistry with Padilla added a layer of personal sacrifice and emotional complexity to the narrative. Their quiet, tender scenes offer brief respites from the intensity of the action while showing that Guerrero's quest for justice is also a deeply personal one. What's truly remarkable about Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw is how the chemistry between actors, especially the leads, carried the weight of the film's more subtle themes. Each actor played an essential part in making the audience feel the stakes of Guerrero's journey, not just the physical danger, but the emotional cost. The film's strength lies in how the actors convey the internal conflict of their characters, making it easy for viewers to connect with the very real consequences of their choices. The relationships, both professional and personal, between the characters become vehicles for the audience's emotional engagement, pushing the narrative forward and allowing the action to feel like a natural outgrowth of character rather than spectacle. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere on set contributed immensely to the film's successful performances. Several cast members shared that the environment was relaxed yet focused, with director Pablo Santiago creating an open space for collaboration. In interviews, Padilla noted that Santiago allowed for improvisation in certain scenes, encouraging the actors to bring their own personal experiences into their roles. This allowed the cast to find nuances in their performances that might not have been present had the direction been more rigid. Santiago also shared in a candid interview that some of the most memorable moments in the film came from spontaneous interactions between the cast, moments where the actors' real emotions bled into their characters. These moments of authenticity, often unplanned, added an extra layer of richness to the film, making the relationships feel less scripted and more lived in. One such instance involved a pivotal scene where Guerrero confronts the corrupt police officers in a tense standoff. According to Santiago, Padilla and Manalo were so fully immersed in their roles that the intensity of their confrontation became palpable on set. During one take, the two actors were so invested in the scene that their physical reactions were entirely genuine, adding a raw, unfiltered energy to the scene that was impossible to replicate. This instance exemplified the trust and chemistry between the actors, who were able to push each other to new emotional heights, all while respecting the collaborative nature of filmmaking. The success of Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw was not only in its ability to entertain, but in the emotional journey it took the audience on. The reactions from viewers upon release were overwhelmingly positive, with many praising the film's depth and emotional resonance. Audiences were particularly struck by the performances, noting how the cast's chemistry brought the story to life in a way that was not only thrilling but also deeply moving. The complex relationships and moral dilemmas faced by the characters resonated with viewers on a personal level, making Guerrero's journey something they could empathize with. The film's portrayal of justice and sacrifice, combined with the personal stakes of the characters, became a talking point long after the credits rolled. Critics and fans alike noted the film's ability to blend action with emotional depth, something that felt rare for a film of its genre. Some viewers found themselves drawn into the characters' struggles, emotionally invested in the choices they made. The film's release sparked discussions about the societal issues it touched on, particularly the corruption of institutions and the personal cost of integrity. This dialogue between the film and its audience proved that Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw wasn't just a piece of entertainment but a cultural artifact that reflected the state of Philippine society at the time. Over the years, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw has gained a cult following, with many revisiting it for its powerful performances and its thought-provoking exploration of justice, morality, and personal sacrifice. Audiences continue to praise the chemistry between Padilla, Garcia, and Manalo, with each actor's portrayal of their character becoming an iconic part of Filipino cinematic history. The film's ability to remain relevant in discussions about power, justice, and the human condition speaks to its enduring impact. In retrospect, the chemistry between the cast, the collaborative nature of the filming process, and the audience's emotional investment have all contributed to the lasting legacy of Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3. The film remains a poignant reminder of the transformative power of cinema, a medium where the relationship between actors, their performances, and the broader social themes explored on screen can create a lasting emotional impact on audiences, both upon release and far beyond. Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno Na ang Salop Part 3 is more than just a film. It's a cultural touchstone that has had a profound influence on the Philippine cinema landscape, particularly within the genre of action dramas and socially conscious films. Released in 1990, it blended the adrenaline-fueled intensity of action with a deeply rooted exploration of moral ambiguity, power dynamics, and personal sacrifice. While it was celebrated in the moment, its enduring influence on Filipino cinema and culture extends well beyond its initial release. The movie's legacy is marked not only by its strong performances, masterful direction, and impactful story but also by the cultural conversations it sparked and its significant impact on future filmmakers, audiences, and critics alike. Upon its release, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw broke new ground within its genre, introducing a level of depth and emotional complexity that set it apart from the typical action fare of the time. In an era dominated by action-packed blockbusters featuring heroic characters in straightforward battles of good versus evil, the film introduced a much grittier and more nuanced narrative. The central figure of Guerrero, portrayed by Robin Padilla, was not the typical action hero. Guerrero was a man torn between his ideals and the corrupt world he was trying to change, a far cry from the invincible, morally unimpeachable heroes of the day. This nuanced portrayal of a flawed yet principled protagonist marked a departure from the traditional action genre and resonated with audiences who were yearning for stories that reflected the complexities of real life. The film's blend of action and emotional depth also had a significant influence on the way action films were made in the Philippines. It elevated the genre, pushing it beyond the realm of pure spectacle and into one that could tackle weighty social issues. By focusing on Guerrero's moral dilemma and the consequences of his actions, the film opened up a space for future filmmakers to explore the intersections between action, drama, and social commentary. Filmmakers who followed in the wake of Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw would find inspiration in its blend of character-driven storytelling and exhilarating action sequences, setting a new standard for what an action drama could achieve. The movie's success proved that Filipino audiences were hungry for films that not only entertained but also challenged them intellectually and emotionally. This shift in audience expectations marked a turning point in Philippine cinema, with more films being made in the years that followed that sought to blend entertainment with deeper themes. In many ways, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw served as a precursor to a wave of socially conscious films in the 1990s, paving the way for future filmmakers to explore themes of justice, power, and corruption with greater depth and sophistication. Beyond its influence on the action genre, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw had a broader cultural impact that reverberated throughout Filipino society. The film's portrayal of Guerrero's struggle against a corrupt system resonated with audiences who saw reflections of their own frustrations with political and social institutions. The theme of fighting against entrenched corruption, even at great personal cost, spoke to a collective desire for change, one that was particularly relevant in the context of the political landscape in the Philippines during the late 1980s and early 1990s. The country was still grappling with the aftershocks of the People Power Revolution, which had toppled the Marcos regime in 1986. For many viewers, the film became an allegory for the ongoing battle between idealism and pragmatism in the pursuit of justice, reflecting the nation's own hopes and struggles during a time of transition. The movie's exploration of justice, morality, and the complexities of human nature also had a lasting impact on the way Filipino audiences perceived the action genre. It wasn't just about spectacle anymore. It was about telling stories that had relevance to the lives of the people watching. As a result, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw became a touchstone for Filipino filmmakers who sought to create films that were both entertaining and thought-provoking. The film's success showed that Filipino audiences were ready for more sophisticated, socially conscious action films, and in many ways, it helped lay the foundation for a new era in Filipino cinema. The lasting impact of Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw can also be seen in its influence on the actors who starred in it. Robin Padilla's portrayal of Guerrero became one of his defining roles and solidified his place as one of the most iconic action stars in Philippine cinema. His performance in this film demonstrated his versatility as an actor, moving beyond the typical action hero role to play a character who was grappling with deeper moral and ethical questions. For Padilla, Guerrero became a role that he would revisit in subsequent films, embodying characters who were often conflicted, introspective, and deeply human. Similarly, Eddie Garcia's performance as the mentor to Guerrero has become a defining moment in his illustrious career. Garcia, already a respected veteran of Philippine cinema, brought his trademark gravitas to the role, offering a counterpoint to Padilla's idealistic, yet morally conflicted, character. Their dynamic, as mentor and mentee, became one of the most memorable relationships in Philippine film, and it cemented Garcia's status as one of the country's greatest actors. Garcia's mentorship of Padilla, both on and off-screen, contributed to the authenticity of their performances, and their chemistry remains one of the standout aspects of the film. In terms of critical reception, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw was met with praise for its fresh take on the action genre, its complex characters, and its exploration of timely social issues. The film was widely recognized for its ability to balance thrilling action sequences with deep emotional resonance, making it a standout not only within the Filipino film industry but also in the broader landscape of Southeast Asian cinema. Critics lauded the performances of Padilla, Garcia, and the supporting cast, as well as the direction of Pablo Santiago, whose vision elevated the material beyond a typical action film. Santiago's ability to weave together action, drama, and social commentary made the film one of the most compelling examples of Philippine cinema in the 1990s. The film's success was also reflected in its box office performance, which was strong enough to secure its place as one of the top-grossing films of the year. The film's widespread appeal, coupled with its critical acclaim, made it a commercial success, further solidifying its status as an iconic piece of Filipino cinema. In addition to its box office success, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw received recognition from various film festivals and award bodies. It garnered several nominations and awards for its performances, direction, and screenplay, further cementing its place in Filipino cinematic history. Even years after its release, the film's cultural significance remains undeniable. The themes explored in Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, corruption, justice, and the personal cost of fighting for what is right, continue to resonate with audiences, particularly in a country where social and political challenges are ever present. In the decades following the film's release, many filmmakers have cited it as an influence, with its blend of action and social commentary serving as a blueprint for films that seek to entertain while also sparking important conversations about societal issues. The film's exploration of corruption within systems of power remains as relevant today as it was in 1990, making Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw a timeless work that continues to shape the landscape of Philippine cinema. The legacy of Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw is also reflected in the way it has been reappraised by newer generations of filmmakers, critics, and audiences. It has become a classic of Filipino cinema, not just for its entertainment value but for its intellectual and emotional depth. The film's ability to engage with pressing societal issues, its memorable characters, and its rich performances have made it a touchstone for those looking to understand the evolution of Filipino cinema in the late 20th century. The film's legacy lives on, not only in the minds of those who experienced it firsthand but also in the work of contemporary filmmakers who continue to draw inspiration from its groundbreaking blend of action, drama, and social commentary. Ultimately, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw's cultural impact extends far beyond its initial success. It has shaped the Philippine film industry in ways that are still felt today, influencing the direction of action films, socially conscious storytelling, and even broader cultural narratives. The film's lasting appeal is a testament to the power of cinema to reflect society's values, struggles, and dreams, creating a lasting connection between the story on screen and the lives of the people who watch it. The film's place in Filipino cinematic history is assured, and its legacy will continue to inspire audiences, filmmakers, and critics for years to come. ChatGPT said, Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw, kapag puno na ang salop Part 3 is, without a doubt, a cinematic masterpiece that remains as relevant today as it was upon its release in 1990. It's a film that stands at the intersection of action, drama, and social commentary, offering something deeper than just visceral thrills. While it remains a thrilling ride full of high-octane action, the film's lasting impact is due to its profound exploration of the complexities of morality, justice, and the personal cost of fighting for what is right. It's a movie that has transcended its genre to become an enduring part of Filipino cinematic culture, influencing generations of filmmakers, critics, and audiences alike. One of the standout aspects of Hindi ka Sisikatan ng Araw is its characterization, particularly the portrayal of its protagonist, Guerrero, played by Robin Padilla. Guerrero is not a simple action hero. He is a deeply flawed, morally conflicted figure, torn between his ideals and the brutal reality of the world around him. Padilla's portrayal of Guerrero is nothing short of remarkable. he infuses the character with a raw intensity and emotional depth that anchors the entire film. Through Guerrero's journey, the movie becomes more than just a story of action and revenge. It becomes a reflection on the personal sacrifices one must make when trying to stand up against corruption and injustice. Padilla's performance serves as a blueprint for the modern action hero, one who is just as vulnerable and conflicted as he is strong and determined. But Guerrero is not the only memorable character in this film. Eddie Garcia's portrayal of the mentor figure, a wise and weary man who guides Guerrero on his journey, offers a perfect counterpoint to Padilla's youthful idealism. Their dynamic is one of the most compelling in the movie, and their chemistry is palpable. This relationship is built not only on their performances but also on the real-life mentorship between the two actors. Garcia brings a depth and gravitas to his role that enhances the film's emotional resonance. It is in their shared moments of reflection, debate, and understanding that the film's underlying themes of justice, morality, and personal sacrifice come to the forefront. Equally important are the film's supporting characters, who help further develop the movie's broader thematic concerns. Characters like Krista Ranillo's love interest, who faces her own struggles between love and moral compromise, are critical in illustrating the personal stakes of Guerrero's journey. Her relationship with Guerrero provides the emotional core of the film, reminding us that the fight for justice isn't just about fighting faceless enemies but also about the toll it takes on the people we care about. The action sequences in Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw are thrilling, and they do not disappoint in terms of spectacle. But what sets this film apart is its ability to infuse these moments with emotional weight. The battles and confrontations are not just exciting for their physical intensity, but because they are driven by the characters' moral dilemmas. Each fight and chase becomes a metaphor for Guerrero's internal struggle. He is constantly battling not just external enemies, but his own conscience, his values, and his sense of right and wrong. This depth elevates the film from mere action to something far more resonant. Another standout feature of the film is its striking cinematography and direction. Director Pablo Santiago's vision is bold and daring, and he brings an artistic touch to every scene. The film's cinematography is rich with symbolism and visual cues that enhance its themes. Santiago's skillful use of lighting, framing, and camera angles creates a palpable sense of tension and emotional depth. These cinematic techniques do not simply serve the plot. They become integral to the story itself. The way the camera lingers on a character's face during a crucial moment, or how the darkness of a scene mirrors the moral uncertainty of the characters, reflects the thematic concerns at the heart of the film. The film's social commentary also stands out as one of its most compelling aspects. At its core, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw is about a man's quest for justice in a world that seems rigged against him. The movie explores the corruption of institutions and the personal cost of standing up against them, timeless themes that continue to resonate today. In a time when the country was still grappling with the fallout from political upheaval, the film's exploration of power, greed, and moral compromise struck a chord with Filipino audiences. It wasn't just a film about fighting villains in a fictional world. It was a reflection of the societal struggles that people were facing in real life. The movie became more than just entertainment. It became a vehicle for social reflection and discussion. One of the most significant achievements of Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw is its lasting impact on the Philippine film industry. It broke new ground within the action genre, combining thrills with thought-provoking social commentary in a way that was rare for the time. The film opened up new possibilities for future filmmakers, showing that action films could tackle complex, real-world issues and that entertainment could serve as a powerful tool for reflection and social change. In this way, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw helped to redefine the boundaries of what an action film could be. It set a precedent for future Filipino films to blend entertainment with deeper, more meaningful storytelling. The film's legacy continues to be felt today, as its influence can be seen in the work of contemporary Filipino filmmakers who seek to create films that entertain while also challenging audiences to think critically about the world around them. Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw helped to pave the way for a new generation of socially conscious filmmakers who have continued to explore similar themes of justice, morality, and power. Its impact extends beyond the film industry, as it continues to resonate with audiences, sparking conversations about the complexities of the Filipino experience and the need for societal change. The film's cultural impact cannot be overstated. It remains a classic of Filipino cinema, revered not just for its thrilling action but also for its profound exploration of the human condition. Its themes of corruption, justice, and personal sacrifice continue to resonate with audiences, making it a timeless piece of filmmaking. Even years after its release, the film remains an essential part of the conversation about Philippine cinema and its role in reflecting the social and political realities of the country. Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw is a film that has transcended its genre and its time, continuing to inspire filmmakers and audiences alike. Ultimately, Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw, Kapag Puno na ang Salop Part 3 stands out because it offers more than just entertainment. It offers a deeply human story that challenges viewers to examine their own values, their own understanding of justice, and their own place in a world that often feels unfair and unforgiving. It's a film that doesn't just ask its audience to watch. It asks them to think, to reflect, and to engage with the themes it presents. This is what makes it so special, and why its legacy endures. If you haven't already, be sure to revisit this incredible film. It's a masterpiece of storytelling that continues to captivate audiences, and it's a perfect example of how cinema can be both entertaining and thought-provoking. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hindi ka na Sisikatan ng Araw, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us bring more exciting movie explorations like this to you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses and discussions of your favorite films. Stay tuned for our next cinematic journey, and as always, thank you for joining us in uncovering the magic of cinema.